We're like at the year anniversary, like I think right now. Like
it's about that time.
This is our 51st episode, and we skipped a week. So
wow. Anniversary.
Do you want to do? You talked about doing a 50th, and I was like, no, because that's not a year. And then you were like, okay, we'll do 52 because that's stupid. It's like, well, you have a fucking point there, Lilith.
It's technically a full year of being trans with Lilith and Amanda, but kind of like 2/3 of a year with Ted Cruz. So, whatever. Things happen.
Fuck it. Oh, God, don't remind me. I'm so embarrassed to be associated with that fucking scumbag.
That's okay. I still think it's a hilarious name for a transgender support podcast. It was really good.
That's a good one.
I don't care. It's not my fault.
No one liked it, though. Well, maybe we were wrong because our numbers were way better.
Numbers went way down. Numbers went
way down.
That's because who was listening? QAnon was listening, trying to decode what we were saying. Yeah. They were like, "Oh, what do these two really mean? What's the secret right-wing message?" Yeah, they hated us.
Wow, they hated us so much, but they couldn't look away because they were like,
"Stop staring."
They can't stop staring. They're like fascinated. Stop. They're like, "That's like, oh, I'm such a sinner."
Oh, yeah. Well, it's been.
I hate myself.
I'm just ready to get in touch with you and have a great episode. And a great episode of here's why I introduced the podcast. A great episode of Being Trans with Lilith and Amanda. I also have to say this.
Okay.
The Kevin James memes hit this week, and I could literally just scroll through Kevin James memes. I think I've shared like 2 or 3 of them with you already.
They're so fucking good. Okay, here's the thing about that. The Kevin James memes is like, they're really funny for some reason.
Yeah.
I don't know why they're so funny, but that dude is a fucking huge piece of shit, and I hate that he's getting famous again because he shouldn't be able to. He's a legitimately shitty person.
I don't know anything about him.
He's like a hardcore right-wing Christian Nazi.
He's a comic
style.
All stand-up comics are like that. The thing I can't stand is like you'll read them and people are like, oh, this is reminding me of how amazing King of Queens was. I'm like, King of Queens was just like bare minimum, like generic sitcom that people will put on while they're making dinner. It's not groundbreaking or anything. It's like, oh, a fat white guy with a hot white chick wife? No way. Where'd you come up with this plan?
Yeah.
The Honeymooners again?
I never even watched The Honeymooners because that was like before my time. But like basically, I did see it like later on. Was it because I got older? I just saw a couple episodes just because you can't not. Like you couldn't dodge it totally.
Yeah.
And it was just about a dude that beat his wife. Like that was the whole fucking show.
I don't think he ever beat her. It was just the threat.
He threatened to. That was like the running gag was, I'm gonna punch you. Like it's like you better watch your mouth or I'll knock your teeth in.
But he never did. Like, that's why it was comedy.
I guess that's why it's funny. But then what's wild about that is then they made a fucking cartoon based on that called The Flintstones. Yeah. And we all saw The Flintstones like as kids, but like didn't get it. Why they decided to show that show of all shows to kids was like
wait. Because
here's the thing. It was a spoof of a show about a man that beat his wife, and it's cartoon cavemen. And all the jokes are references to that show that none of us saw.
Hold on. Did you know, and I don't think you did know, when the Flintstones first came on, it was one of the first primetime animated cartoons, and it was for adults.
Yeah, I did.
They would have commercials starring the Flintstones for Marlboro cigarettes.
I mean, that's great. That's wonderful.
Hey, Ben! The cool taste of Carolina smoke. And it's like, wow, okay.
We have to find that, dude.
Yeah, I'll find it.
Let's find that right now.
All right.
They sure work hard, don't they, Barney?
Yeah?
I hate to see them work so hard.
Yeah, me too. Let's go around back where we can't see them.
Oh!
We ought to do that, Fred.
So good.
How's about taking a nap?
I got a better idea. Let's take a Winston.
Look at how big those cigarettes are.
Winston is the one filter cigarette that delivers flavor 20 times a pack. Winston's got that filter blend.
Yeah, Fred. Filter blend makes the big taste difference, and only Winston has it up front where it counts. Here, ahead of the pure white filters. Winston packs rich tobaccos specially selected and specially processed for good flavor in filter smoking.
Yeah, Barney, Winston tastes good, like a cigarette should.
Yeah, like that was like hilarious.
Brought to you by
So-
Winston, America's best-selling, best-tasting.
How weird is it that they it looks like they just cut out a photo of actual pack of Winston cigarettes.
I mean, it's so low res, I can't fucking tell.
Didn't bother.
I just see grain.
Didn't bother resizing it or anything. And then, how you naturally talk to your friend about whatever product it is you're using.
I think a lot of our generation got really upset with the boomers. And started thinking their parents were the greatest generation. The World War IIs were better, but they weren't. They were actually worse.
Great grandpa started smoking because a cartoon character told him about the great filter that starts right after the white paper ends on his Winston.
Right.
And well, if it's good enough for Fred Flintstone, it's good enough for me.
Well, they all started smoking in the war. In all fairness, when you were in World War II, it's okay, yeah, I want a fucking cigarette. It's yeah, dude, you get a cigarette, man.
You can knock yourself
smoke
out.
all the cigarettes, dude. Yes. So
wait, if we can
you're fighting fucking Nazis and watching your friends get shot and fucking storming Normandy Beach. Yeah, you get to smoke.
And they were like, what's the point of selling cigarettes to old people when we could use the same cartoons to sell Count Chocula to kids? And that was the end of it. Yeah.
Count Chocula.
Count Chocula sells itself. You don't need commercials for that shit.
It really does. It's it was clearly the best of the Monster series of cereals.
I don't know. I'm a big fan of Blueberry.
Blueberry? Who wants
Yeah.
to eat blueberry cereal?
Me?
I guess you do. I haven't had it since I was a kid. Because there was just the three, right? It was Count Chocula and Frankenberry.
Oh my God.
And Blueberry,
Wait,
right?
are you talking about a tangent? Because
isn't that what we do?
So right now, if you go to the store any time of the year except Halloween, you can get Count Chocula. Maybe
you can't get Count Chocula during Halloween.
No. You can get it all year round, but except for Halloween, all you're going to find is Count Chocula. They're not going to have the other ones.
I don't understand.
I go in in January. I'm looking for a monster cereal. They'll have Count Chocula. And that's it. They might have Frankenberry. But then you get to Halloween. Are you ready for this? Because
I'm ready.
Count Chocula, Frankenberry, Boo-Berry, Yummy Mummy.
I remembered Yummy Mummy.
Yummy Mummy, Fruit Brute, who's a werewolf. And now there's a new one this year who's a girl, so girl power. And hers is Caramel Apple. Carmela Creeper is her name. So go out and get yourself a big old box of Carmela Creeper.
Carmela Creeper. What's Yummy Mummy's flavor? Pineapple. I feel like it's yellow.
No, Yummy Mummy's also Yummy Mummy's also a fruit thing. I would have. You know what? Fruit Brute is vanilla, and then it said Fruity Yummy Mummy is also.
Fruit Brute is vanilla, but vanilla's not a fruit.
It's fruit, but with a little and vanilla. So it's a fruit flavor, but with a little vanilla in it.
Which fruit flavor?
Fruit. In the world of cereal and candy, it's just fruit.
It's fruit flavor?
There's three kinds of fruit when you're talking about candy.
Fruit stripe gum. Fruit?
There's strawberry, blueberry, fruit.
There's purple. There's purple. There's purple. There's red. There's pink.
Yeah, fruit.
Yeah, green.
Shoot. Now I gotta find my history. I just messaged it to you in the chat, so you can cut and paste that into a thing.
Fuck. Can't you just Jesus? Okay, fine.
This is where I am now.
Paste it into a thing.
You just open up a browser and put it in there.
No, because I have to get it. So because I'm going to edit this in 3 days, so I have to be able to access it, and I have to keep it all in one spot.
You just leave the browser tab open.
What? Are you a fucking animal? Were you born in a barn?
I was not born in a barn.
Browser tab open for 3 days. What are you talking about?
Look, I currently have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
Well, I've got 25 browsers at any given time, but I don't keep them open.
These are all work tabs. They're open 24/7.
Oh, that's crazy. You don't shut your computer off ever?
Well, every once in a while.
God.
Yeah, you ready for a question?
I'm ready for a question.
All right, so this one is, people who transitioned, how quickly did it take for society to start treating you differently? I'm sorry if this sounds like a dumb or random question, and I really don't mean for this to come off as an insensitive way. I'm cis. I just had this random thought. But people who transitioned, how long did it take for when you first started transitioning for people to start treating you differently solely based on the gender you now present as? Also, what were some of the changes, and what do you now identify as? If you don't, we don't have to answer all that, guys, present, because we already know what we identify as. So, as in, do people compliment or make random conversations more or less? How do their mannerisms change when they first see you? Did your salary change? How do you feel doing certain things now that you transitioned? Do you feel better or worse doing them now than you did before, etc.?
That is a fucking really good question, and I gotta say, I actually love when cis people ask these questions. A lot of times, it can get a picture painted that trans people resent cis people, and that's not true. It's not uniformly true. It's not fair, because most cis people are cool. I'm friends with a lot of cis people, and most people are just good people. And it doesn't matter that trans cis, what we just want is just for everyone to just get along. But the thing is you have to understand the reason that trans people seem to have issues with cis people is because the only shit we get ever comes from cis people. Trans people do not give each other shit. So all the shit that we get comes from cis people. So that's why that comes across. So when we get a question from a cis person reaching out, asking, wants to know more, wants to understand it, well, that's the whole point of what we're doing here. And it makes me really happy. Lilith, what do you have to say about that?
I feel like it really didn't start for me. It was a while because I wore wigs, but now that I've been growing my own hair and had that taken care of and stuff like that, I feel like as long as I don't talk, I feel like I pass. But I also don't think about that. As for things that my salary didn't change, my salary changed because I quit my job. I got an amazing new job that pays way more. Yeah. And how do I feel about certain things? I feel I don't know if it was my transition as maybe more about changing who I was, but I used to be super, super way unhealthily into sports. I still enjoy sports now and then, and I still, but the idea of sitting down and watching a game at home just doesn't appeal to me. So I feel we've talked about this before, where you have all these things that you've set up to project what you think you should be and who you should be. And so I feel I've dropped a lot of that just naturally because I've stopped being that person. But, there are still some things I'm interested in.
I'll pause you just there because I just want to jump in and say also, in addition to that, because it's everything you said is true, but on top of that, the hormones do change your perspective.
The hormones do, yes.
Some of it's you're dropping things because you're not looking to keep up that roots. Sometimes it's just you just don't like the same stuff.
One thing I heard is that after you transition, if you start taking hormones, there's a percentage of people who don't like cilantro. And I used to be that kind of person that tastes soapy, and now I can eat cilantro and it doesn't taste soapy. So that changed.
Oh, but I don't know anyone loves cilantro. It's the best tasting thing.
Yeah. The other day I was at the store and I was waiting to get some butter, and there was an older couple standing there and they weren't really doing anything, and the old lady saw me. She's like, "Oh, move, dear, she needs to get the butter." And I was like, "Yeah, I do." But I feel like it's kind of hard to read because of the way the world is now.
I think most places there's very few people that are looking for a fight.
Yeah.
This is something I faced early on in my transition. And it's a tricky one because when you first start transitioning and you don't pass, people will respect it. They'll gender you correctly. And there's a bunch of people that don't also.
I think your results may vary depending on where you live.
Results may vary also. There's a little piece of like life advice for that specific situation, which is if you get a compliment or if someone respects you, like assume it's real. Assume they mean it. Don't read into it like, well, what do they mean by that? Like, are they fucking with me? They're not. If someone compliments you, accept it gracefully and thank them. And believe in your heart that they meant it, because everyone does. So, but the thing with like, when did people start treating you different? That's such a good question, but it's so much more complicated than that because it's layered, it's graduated. They start treating you different in different ways at different stages. You get treated differently as soon as you come out. As soon as you tell someone, they start looking at you differently and they start treating you differently.
I was thinking about that
immediately.
Because like, everyone I came out to, all my friends were like accepting and stuff. And I think this is more like you went to the grocery store and what did some jerk at the grocery store you don't know, when did they start calling you ma'am or whatever?
Well, I'm just saying, like, that's like an example. Like, so immediately is one answer, but it depends on how you also handle your transition. Like, coming out is one thing, starting HRT is another. A lot of people, like Lilith, didn't start HRT for a couple of years, but I did. I started it right away. But even though I started HRT, I didn't immediately go femme. I did this thing where I, instead of injecting femininity, tried to like reduce masculinity. I aimed for gender neutral. My goal was, I'm going to take away masculinity. And if I can get to the point where people can't tell the difference, then I can like kind of step through the looking glass and go the other direction. But I didn't want to just like jump into it right away because I just didn't feel comfortable doing that. And so I tried to do it gradually because transitions are gradual. But here's the wild thing. People started treating you different in different ways, and they start treating you differently in ways that you don't expect. And one of the first things that really threw me off was I had this friend that I worked with. It was a younger fella, and we were friends. Like we were definitely friends. And I transitioned, and then I lost my job at that place. And then I ended up hanging out with him about like 4 months after I'd been fired, and like it was some thing with a bunch of other people we worked with, and we were all just hanging out doing a thing. And he and I ended up like staying a little later than everybody else. And then we're like, you want to go get something to eat? I was like, yeah, I'd love to go get something to eat. We went to a restaurant. And when we got to the restaurant, he opened the door for me. He talked to the hostess and he pulled out my chair for me. And he treated it like a fucking date. And it was weird, and I was not ready for this. This is a guy that I'd had a platonic relationship for like a year prior to this, and so I did not know what was going on because I'd spent my whole life being the person that opens doors for other people. Like, oh, you go first. But eventually people not only open doors for you, they expect you to go through them. And so you have to learn, like, oh, yes, I am going to go first.
Oh, yes,
like,
of course.
You have to learn that behavior. And it is wild. And so that's one of the things that happens. People treat you differently when you're in the early stages of your transition and you don't pass. And then they treat you way differently when you do. Everything's so gradual because everything about a transition is slow and takes a really long time.
Also depends on like what you're doing. Where like I worked like a year. I worked retail. I was transitioning. It was the worst. Like everyone comes in like, thank you, sir. And you're just like, it's ma'am. And they're like, okay, sir. It's just like, then here's the thing you realize is so people don't pay attention to anything. Everyone has different, you know, if you want to have a fight at a store with someone you're going to have a 30-second conversation with because they use sir instead of ma'am, and you want to go through the effort of correcting them and make that happen, knock yourself out. For me, it's just like, it's a shitty job I don't want to do. It's just next. Get out of the fucking way, next person. I'm not here for it. But, you know, like I said, if I don't speak to people, like I assume I've passed pretty well, and my voice sometimes gives me away, but you know, like I said, everyone comes in different. I'm callous enough, I guess. I don't give a shit. But that also takes some just different personalities and different of, you know, what you're willing to do if the things come to stuff. Like if someone wants to fuck with me, they can give it their best shot. I don't give a shit. Not every trans woman is like that, and I wouldn't expect most women to be like that,
yeah.
trans or not.
I feel like you're like talking about a lot of like the bad ways in which people treat you differently. And
yeah, when do they start noticing and you start feeling like, oh, I'm being treated like a female? And you're right. How much effort are you putting into presenting? And not saying you have to put in effort, because you know me, I'm like, you do you. But I'm like, when I took hormones for a year, and when I worked because of my job, I wasn't out at my work. No one knew anything. And then after I transitioned to work, I'd still get people, like I'd be in there full makeup, dress and everything, and get misgendered. Some of those people knew me before my transition, and they're like, guys who work on road crews and have met me twice in their life, and they remember me from the first time. Like again, what's worth the effort, But as I've gone further, and it's a growth process. It's like asking like a 12-year-old, like, when did people start treating you like a teenager? And it's like, well, as I developed, as I got further into my transition, that's changed. But yeah, it is great. It is like I said, I don't consider myself all that passable, but
really good.
When people do say stuff, it's like, oh, thank you. Even if you're just being polite, that's great. I appreciate that.
I remember like one of the things that I really appreciated was I noticed this a couple things very early on at the 3-month stage, and these are some of my favorite parts about being treated differently, which was that both men and women started treating me differently, but in better ways. Presenting male, I always wasn't really comfortable around men. Like that thing that they talked about like for a while, like locker room talks, it's a real fucking thing. Like men say they say horrible shit about women when women aren't around. Even like some of the nicest guys, you feel that even if you're not out, you feel that. And you're just like, oh. Even just interacting with men, like I always felt it was always adversarial to some degree. Men are always trying to one up each other. I had to constantly prove my masculinity at all times. Like I was in a relentless, endless pissing contest with every man I ever came into contact with. And like I had to prove that I was tougher than them or smarter than them. There would be an endless gauntlet of challenges. Yeah. And that just stopped. Yeah. And like men just started being nice to me. Yeah. And like smiling at me and like, hey, how you doing?
I've had people like out of nowhere say shit to you at a store, and you're like, do not talk to me.
Getting catcalled for the first time.
I think this is something people don't think about, especially if you're a guy who has a trans man as a friend or a woman who is friends with a trans woman. It hurts more to get not included in women things by female friends than it does to get misgendered by strangers. That kind of stings when they don't even think about including you and stuff like that. I'm like 52. I don't expect to be standing up in anyone's wedding as a bridesmaid, but I've been a part of shows where it's like women only shows, and never got asked to. I got asked to do one, and then when they put me in the Facebook group, there was like a Facebook group chat, and you can see all the people who dropped out and were deleted, and I was like the 50th woman they decided to ask to do this huge show, and I was like, oh, you didn't think about me at all for this. That is much more painful than anything a stranger does to me. So yeah. I would say if you're a dude and you got a friend who's a trans dude, include him in your dude shit. If you're running something for the women and you've got a friend who's a trans woman, include her in that shit. It'll make her feel so amazing. I assume trans.
I got real lucky with that stuff, and like people started including me right away, and it felt amazing. Men treat you differently, but women too. Literally, I think maybe my favorite part was the way that women started treating me. And when you're presenting male, women have their guard up.
Yeah.
There's a force field there that very few men get through. Yeah. And it has to be there. I do it myself now. I could never tell a woman that I liked her makeup or that I liked her hair or that I thought her boots were cute. I knew I couldn't get away with it, and so I didn't do it because I didn't want to make people feel awkward or uncomfortable because they're always being hit on. Yeah. Women are always being hit on by men. The first time that I truly felt like the transition was taking place was when I watched that barrier go away and women started talking to me like women. They would ask me my opinions on things, and it was such a revelation, and it felt so nice. Like, that was a huge thing for me, and that happened pretty early on. I'd say within 3 months.
Yeah. Great question. Great question.
Great question.
Great conversation.
Love it.
Great conversation, Sis Ally. I love it. So why don't we take a break? And when we come back, we'll see what fun stuff we've got cooked up.
Just a quick line, that's it. It is a beautiful thing. Look at that.
This is ground beef and cheddar soft tacos from Campbell's Soup. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 ingredients.
5.
Those ingredients are 1 pound of ground beef.
Yeah.
1 can of Campbell's condensed cheddar cheese.
Here's my question. It says 1 can, and then it says 10.5 ounces. Does that mean
10.5 ounces? They do have bigger cans.
Oh,
you can get like the 24-ounce giant cans.
Okay, let me compose myself for the rest of this. All right. 24-ounce can of condensed cheddar cheese soup.
You could get it if you really want. If you want to cook for your hungry boys.
If you come over the winter and you come visit with us, I will make like homemade potato leek soup and fresh bread and just be like,
these fucking tacos, they sound insane. All right. A pound of ground beef, a can of condensed cheddar cheese soup, half a cup of paste picante.
This is the worst. It's the worst. It's literally the worst sauce.
8 flour tortillas, warmed.
Yeah, of course.
And 2 cups of shredded lettuce.
Got to get your nutrition in there.
That's all you need for tacos. For tacos. No season. Notice there's no seasoning in those tacos. It's just ground beef and paste picante sauce and a can of Campbell's cheddar soup.
To be fair, those tortillas are warmed. Those are warmed tortillas. So,
here's the instructions.
Tips.
Yeah, here's the tips. Preceded by a nice icon of a chef's hat.
That looks kind of like a muffin, but you get the point.
I think that's a chef's hat.
Yeah, it does.
Be a mushroom cloud. Because this is clearly what you would make in a post-apocalyptic situation.
This is the kind of shit that are in the buckets that you buy from Jim Baker. And it's like, you can feed your whole clan tacos for 2 months.
A fancy wastelander recipe when you got 60 survival points.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Can I use for toppings? There's no wrong answer to this question. Oh, I think there are. You can put some wrong things in here.
I don't know. It's basically
marshmallows would be wrong, for example.
It's basically just warmed beef. You can put whatever the fuck you want on it. I love how the first thing.
Totino's pizza rolls.
Hold on. The first idea they have is just a different kind of paste picante sauce.
Exactly. Paste chunky salsa. Whoa. If you're feeling fucking buck wild.
What?
With these tacos, these soup tacos. Shredded or crumbled cheese. Oh, yeah. Crumble that cheese.
Yeah.
Blue cheese. Blue cheese. Maybe a little feta.
Cotija. That'd be a good crumble on there.
Guacamole. Or even pickled jalapenos. But if you're feeling real spicy, you're feeling like a trip down to Mexico City, better watch out for Montezuma's Revenge, if you know what I mean.
Hold on. How come there's no brand for the sour cream guacamole or pickled jalapenos?
Because Campbell's Soup does not sell sour cream guacamole or pickled jalapenos.
Yeah, but
they do, however, own the paste picante.
They do. Okay, so I was just saying, because like if I got hungry boys and I can't make tacos without this recipe, I can't make my own guacamole. And
there's no wrong answer to this question. So you can throw whatever you want in there.
Yeah,
you can throw some apples in there. You want to get healthy? Maybe a little strawberry.
Yeah.
Crumble up some graham crackers in your taco. Why not?
Some Door County cherries, some lutefisk. All right, could you read this recipe to me? I'm kind of lost here, so if you could read the recipe so I can see how this all comes together.
Step 1.
Okay.
Season the beef with salt and pepper. Cook the beef in a 10-inch skillet over medium-high heat until well brown, stirring often to separate the meat. Pour off any fat. So step 1, cook beef with salt and pepper. Step 2.
I have a question. They always tell you the size skillet to use. If I use a 12-inch skillet, is that going to affect my results negatively?
Fuck it all up.
It's going to fuck it all? Okay.
That's going to be terrible.
Okay.
There's no wrong topping to put in your Campbell's soup taco.
Sure.
But if you use a 12-inch skillet instead of a 10-inch skillet, it's not going to be right. Your boys ain't going to be happy with you.
Okay.
You're going to have some cranky boys, and they're not going to do well at their soccer game, and then there'll be hell to pay
when
Fred gets home.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, if you don't have a beer and 2 tacos waiting for him when he comes home.
Soup, here you go, honey. I know you had a hard day at work. Here's a soup taco.
Now, hold on.
It's your favorite. I made your favorite soup tacos.
I just want to, in defense, they are using condensed soup. So it's basically just a solid block of cheese. If you want to make cheese soup, you would have to add water to the whole concoction. So it's not soup tacos. Be fair.
Soup tacos.
Be fair, Amanda.
Campbell soup.
Be fair.
Here's step 2.
Oh, yeah. What's step 2? I need to finish these off.
Stir the soup in picante sauce and cook until hot. Season to taste. I don't know what you're supposed to season with. I guess there's no wrong answer.
Salt and pepper.
Yeah. Salt and pepper. Well, there's no wrong answer. Maybe I want to season with a little cinnamon and nutmeg.
I mean, even if when I make tacos, I put together my own seasoning mix.
Allspice, maybe a little anise.
You're not going to put it's just a package of Old El Paso taco seasoning in there. It's just salted beef with picante sauce.
It's wild that they didn't think to put taco seasoning in
They didn't want to team up.
These soup tacos. They couldn't cross collab with Old El Paso or Ortega.
Show me the picture. Just show me the picture.
Not even McCormick's would touch this.
Just show me the picture.
And there it is.
Oh, that beef looks sickly.
How good does that look? Now that's all dressed up. They threw a few slices of prep. And maybe those are carrots. I don't know.
They might be. They might be grated carrots now that you mention it.
Shredded carrots on top of your...
Oh. You could have told me it had already been chewed and spit back into the dish, and I would have believed you.
That's how to cook.
That's not how to cook.
Thank you for watching Culinary Delights.
I mean, if I'm going to be honest, I think the thing here is for us to do this every week, and then in a year, just release our own cookbook of recipes of our own to show that we're better than the corporate chefs over at Kraft and Campbell's.
Are you going to top them soup tacos?
Oh.
I have to be perfectly honest with you here.
I'm going to be real honest.
I knew that the Campbell's website was going to be a fucking gold mine. But I did not expect for tacos to be on that list. And when I saw it, my eyes lit up like it was fucking Christmas.
I'm going to be super honest with you. We're never going to top those soup tacos. And to be honest, those soup tacos top you. That's how that goes. Babe, this has been a fun episode. I hope everyone who watched had fun. Thank you for listening. Thank you for joining. Please click like and subscribe. Tell your friends. I think one of the things I have to talk about is people ask, I tell them I do a transport podcast, and we do answer questions and we try to bring that to it. But honestly, I think one thing we really want to do is have fun. And we realize that life for trans people in America and worldwide, really, I'm sure, it can just be a drudge of bad news after bad news. And yes, it's important to cover that, and there are great places to get that information and to stay informed. But sometimes it's nice just for us to get together and make fun of cheesy soup tacos. And we hope that you enjoyed that, and we hope to see you next week. Email us if you have any questions, or if you have any recipes that your mom made or your dad made, or you want to share them with us. send them our way. beingtranspodcast@gmail.com. I'm Lilith. That's Amanda. We love you so much. And
Bye-bye.
Have a great week.